What's up, everybody? Welcome back to racingdudes.com. Welcome back to our final Kentucky Derby video of the year. It is the Kentucky Derby recap edition. Kind of look back at all the trips and try to make sense of this year's Derby. I will say I have a very good understanding of what happened in this year's Kentucky Derby. I don't have an understanding of why it happened, and we'll talk through that in a second. Let's put the chart up on it now, and let's just kind of go through this and talk this one out a little bit. Okay, like I said, I've watched enough racing to know we had a total pace collapse in this year's Kentucky Derby. All horses that were on or near the lead just had nothing left other than one, and we'll get to him in a second. And even he faded late. But here's where it gets weird for me. This was not a blazing fast pace. Was it swift enough to give closers a chance? Yes, it was. It wasn't a slow pace. That is not the case. This was not that fast of a pace. They did go fast the opening quarter. They went 22.68 to the quarter, but then they went 46 and 4.44 to the half, which that's all right. I mean, that's fairly quick, but not, I'm going to collapse on you quick, right? Then they slowed it up even more and went 110.9 to the 6 furlong pole. Again, at that point, I looked at Jared and said, I think somebody sitting mid-pack or ahead may have a great shot to win this, because I thought, man, it's not that fast, and it's setting up for somebody is going to have a real nice shot that's a little bit closer to the pace. And that just didn't happen. And another thing that's interesting, you got to remember, 6-speed was a half length ahead at the quarter pole, and then he was a length and a half ahead at the half mile pole. So 46.44, that's what 6-speed ran it in. The other horses were the second place horse in the race was a length and a half behind that. I don't know. Is the best way to put it. I'm not sure what happened and why this thing collapsed like it did, but it was an absolute collapse of a race here. At the 6 furlong marker, 6-speed, like I said, ran 110.90. He was a full length ahead of the second place runner at that time. So once again, it kind of felt like those horses in the stalking position might be in a good spot. That was not the case. All right, let's go to some of the trips now. And as expected, we'll start with the winner. And as expected, this horse was absolutely last. I think anybody that's watched him all year long kind of knew he would be last. He did not get out of the gate all that well. That's another thing that that's 2 races in a row where he hasn't got out of the gate well. This horse was so far back. This horse was probably 4 lengths behind the second to last place horse. He kind of got the same trip that Final Gambit got last year. And usually when you get that kind of trip, you kind of do what Final Gambit did last year and run up for 3rd or 4th or 5th, which is kind of what when that race was unfolding, I was kind of like, okay, I didn't make a note to myself. It's like, he's getting that. I'm so far back. I'm even further back than the other closers. And I bet he's going to run up here for 3rd, 4th, 5th. And that's kind of what I think most of us, and by the way, if you bet him to win, congratulations. If you hit exactas tries, congratulations. Not an easy one to get. Pat yourself on the back for sure. But I think a lot of us, I'll say, kind of thought, yeah, that's a good area to use him. And in the bottom of the tries and the supers, he makes a lot of sense there. And instead, the pace, like I said, collapses. He follows Renegade, who Renegade's a good 3, 4, 5 lengths ahead of him. He's moving basically when Renegade's moving the entire time, and he just runs him down in the stretch. He was making up ground like crazy on Renegade. So I just give this horse a ton of credit. I mean, he ran a huge race. He got the setup that he needed, but he also had to go catch who, many believe coming out of it may have been the best horse in Renegade. So good on Golden Tempo. It was just incredible. It's not hard to explain, right? That if the pace collapses, the horse that's in the very back and the horse that makes the move last is going to have the best chance to win. And that's what happened with him. So congratulations to him. Congratulations if you bet him. Congratulations to Cherie DeVoe, first female to win the Kentucky Derby. I think that's pretty fitting. If you follow horse racing, it's like, that makes total sense. And congratulations, Jose Ortiz, for his first Kentucky Derby win there as a rider. So let's get to the second place horse, Renegade, and exactly what I had been worried about and was talking about from him drawing the one hole. It went exactly like I thought. I know a lot of people are like, well, with this new gate, it's not that bad. That is just, the evidence is not there. This is, again, another situation where the horse on the rail, just gets bumped and body checked and hip checked. And it looks like they're going to go over the rail at some point. His whole first, however many, yards of the race, he's just, horses are coming down on him. You got to give him a ton of credit, because once he kind of got past getting body checked 3 or 4 times there, he got in his spot and he was able to get into his stride. And then he made a huge move and he looked like the winner for a bit there, and just got ran down late by Golden Tempo. I'm skeptical of what would have happened if he draws a normal post, and how much did it take out of him, those body checks early into the race when he was bouncing off the rail and other horses. Did it take a lot out of him? We'll never really know the true answer to that, but you got to think maybe it did. And if it did it cost him the race? So it's just one of those things. I hate the unfairness of the race. I'm just going to be blunt about it. I think if you're going to run 20 horses, let the top point earners throughout the season get preference of their choice of post position, right? And I know they're never probably going to change this from 20. And I get why they're trying to make money. More betting interest means more money. And I listen, I get it. But if you're going to do that, let the horses that have earned the right to be there by winning the biggest races and earning the most points, let them get their choice of post positions first, because it's just unfair that this is a horse that won the Sam F. Davis, won the Arkansas Derby, and he gets this, and he just, look, I mean, I came away from this thinking that horse, give him just an awful lot of credit for being able to even survive at that first part of the race. So, but anyway, I didn't mean to get on a rant there. As far as this trip, it's exactly what I just described. Playing bumper cars for a while until he gets back to the very back, and then, like I said, he settled down. He made a big move. I'm sure Irad Ortiz thought, "Hey, here comes the Derby. I'm getting it." And then his brother runs him down late, and I don't know that Irad felt him coming, even, because I think he just kind of was looking at the horses ahead of him and probably never dreamed that a horse from behind him would catch him. But he ran great, good race. He'll come back, only lost a neck, and he'll be tough in the Belmont, no doubt about that. All right, explain this one, because I can. Oselli ends up getting third in this race. He's another one. He was way back there, him and Renegade, and I believe Albus was back there as well, and Albus didn't fire. These two did, and Oselli, he just drops back. He makes one run. He gives a little body check to Commandment, who then body checks Further Ado, who then goes and hits Chief Wallaby. We'll talk about that in a second, and kind of throws all of them off stride for a bit. And Oselli puts his head in front for a little bit there in the stretch before getting ran down by the top two. But another one just on repeat here as we talk about the first 3 runners. These horses early in the race were 15th, 17th, and 18th, and they're winners. And they're winners because it fell apart, right? There were only 18 horses in the race this year, by the way. So that's last, second to last, and fourth to last. And so, again, victim of the pace. A lot of these horses we'll talk about next, but Oselli, who's still a maiden, was able to get third in the Kentucky Derby. All right, let's go to the 4th place finisher, Chief Wallaby. I think a lot of people are going to be talking about him, and I am as well. He kind of sat, well, I'll say this to start. He seemed to be a little keyed up early, right? But not overly bad. Just kind of like, yeah, he may be up there in that stalking flight, but I'll give whether it's the horse or Junior Alvarado, he kind of got him to relax once they got in right before the turn. You kind of see him kind of relax and kind of just get in that middle of the pack, and really sat in a beautiful, beautiful spot. And so as they turn for home, he's trying to kind of pick in between horses or kind of just follow a couple horses, and he gets room. And there's a moment in the stretch, he's got a few seconds to where if he accelerates, he's going to avoid what happens next. And what happens next is what I was just describing. Oselli gets next to Commandment and bumps into him. Commandment bumps into Further Ado, and then Further Ado shuts off the path that Chief Wallaby has. And so Chief Wallaby has nowhere to run and can't get going. Again, if you watch the replay back, Chief Wallaby had a chance. If he would have really accelerated when asked immediately, he may have been able to avoid it. But he kind of did that thing where he cocks his head towards the grandstand, which is what he did without blinkers as well. And he's kind of like, you can tell, hey, we're trying to go here. And you can almost tell he's got the energy, but he just doesn't really accelerate like he should. Here's what I'll say. After he gets body checked, he all of a sudden, I feel like, straightened his head out and focused. And I thought the last portion of the stretch, he was running about as fast as I seen him run in a stretch. Like, he seemed focused. It almost like woke him up. It's like, okay, I got hit and I didn't die, so I'm going to run now. And it woke him up, and he really leveled out. He really put the head down and went and got, look, Dan and Bourbon, a tired horse. We'll talk about him in a minute, but he went and got him, and he seemed a lot more focused, and he was gaining ground. So I think he got a great education out of this. I know people that if you're watching, you bet him, go, I don't really care about his education. I think that cost him the race, and it may well could have. But I also think before he took that, that body check, I think he was doing that same stuff where he's not fully focused on what he's supposed to do. And it's almost like that woke him up a little bit. But I still think this horse has a ton of potential. I thought he ran really well. Even take that out. Hey, for him to run fourth, I thought he ran very well. So credit to him. And like I said, if that doesn't happen, I would have been very curious to see if he continues to finish. But he was finishing strong there at the end. All right, let's talk about the number 5, Denon Bourbon. And this is the horse out of all the other speed that did stick around. I'm going to be quite honest. As I told you guys at the start, when I was watching this race, I thought, okay, it's a decent pace, but it's not overly fast. And when Denon Bourbon took over at the top of the stretch, in my mind, I was going, yep, this horse may win this thing. Like, he looks strong. He opens up to a 2-length lead. And I was just watching him at that point because I thought the race was over. I was like, wow, let's watch this Japanese horse win the Kentucky Derby. And then he just got leg weary. He got leg weary late. He could not finish off the job. And then here they all came. Well, I say four of them came. Really, 3 of them came and passed him. And then the fourth horse passed him real late in the race. But at one point, I thought Denon Bourbon was going to run away with it. And again, it does say a lot that all those other horses on the pace didn't go on, and he did. And he took over. He kind of had that like Justify, American Pharaoh, Nyquist type of trip where it's just like he's out there and he's in a great stalking spot, and you're going to take over the top of the stretch, and you're either going to finish it or you're not. And he just didn't finish it. It's mixed kind of reactions. It's more positive, my reaction about Denon Bourbon, because again, all those pace horses fell off basically, except for him, which just kind of tells you that, man, they were exhausted. And I mean, did they go faster than we thought maybe, or than the time says, or what? Because, fast fractions were happening all day, and you didn't really see horses just collapse on the front end. Most of the dirt races were won by horses on the lead or in that first pack of horses. Now, the Derby's a different animal, going 1.25 miles, and maybe that's a lot of it. Some of these horses didn't want to go that far, perhaps. So anyway, mostly good. I would say the one bad thing is this horse had a 2-length lead in the stretch of the Kentucky Derby and finished 5th. So he hit the brakes pretty hard. And part of me is still kind of creeping in of like, man, if he was like a super horse, shouldn't he have won? But again, with the pace falling like it did, I don't know. I go back and forth, as you can tell, as I keep going back and forth here. All right, let's keep going. It gets a little bit easier to kind of dissect. Incredible, a horse. Well, let's talk about him in a pair. Incredible and Commandment, 2 horses that were kind of side by side in this thing. And for a lot of the race, just kind of in that 13, 14, kind of spot, kind of the leading closers, let's call them, right? And incredible. It's able to pass Commandment late. We kind of talked about Commandment, getting hit there at the top of the stretch. He was not really running all that hard anyway. I mean, maybe you could flip flop Incredible and Commandment if that doesn't happen, but I'm not even sure if that. I don't really think it cost Commandment of positioning. Neither one of them were finishing strong enough. I think at the end of the day, that's kind of the main thing. They just weren't. And, I think they're both really good. And I think they could be okay moving forward. But in this race, neither one of them really finishing fast enough to get the job done. Wonder Dean, he showed a lot of heart. I felt like if you go over to the comment, he was squeezed and blocked right when the real kind of running began. He was kind of up on that pace as well. And then he got stopped and then he came back. So, when it comes to Wonder Dean, I thought he ran better than I expected to. I thought he ran pretty well, honestly, in this race, but kind of a tough trip for him. I don't think he was ever winning, but kind of a tough trip. Let's talk about So Happy, who, as a horse that just took money all day long. He was right there with Denon Bourbon. So Six Speed was out on the lead, and So Happy and Denon Bourbon were sitting there second and third in this race. So Happy was ahead for a lot, and then Denon Bourbon was ahead for a little bit of him, and they just kind of were right there together. And so maybe the way Denon Bourbon kind of ran on versus So Happy. I mean, you do kind of that give credit to Denon Bourbon for doing that. So Happy just kind of he just was really tired and he just faded to ninth. He had nothing really in the stretch. Emerging Market, the horse that finished 10th here, I think he was way, way, way too close to this pace. I don't think that's where he wanted to be or where he needed to be at all. I would have liked to seen what he would have done if he was around like where Incredible or Commandment was in the race. That was not to be. It didn't happen. And there was a moment in time where the rail is wide open. I mean, there's a huge hole on the rail, and Emerging Market has got a great chance to go right through that. Flavian Pratt saw it. He asked him, and that horse just went backwards. He was too close to a pace. He had never ran that fast early, and he went backwards in a hurry. So the lightly raced horse can't get the job done here. Further ado, a horse that finished 11th. He did actually go off as the favorite. I thought he was in a great position until I realized the pace was going to fall apart. But he was kind of around where Emerging Market was and kind of I would call the back of the stocking pack or the top of the mid pack. I don't know how you want to really phrase it. I thought Johnny V made an excellent move kind of right before the turn to he kind of like went into a little bit of an opening to get him in really, really good positioning. And as they made the turn, he's starting to make a little bit of a move. And I thought, man, I think he's in a great spot. Again, I was not expecting all the speed to come back, but and so he turns for home. And again, Oselli bumps into Commandment, who bumps into Further Ado had pretty much stopped by the time that bump happened. So Further Ado, he didn't bring it. Basically, he was burned up by the pace and just kind of bounced as well, I would say. Another thing on him, Great White kind of flipped out before the race and fell on his back, had to be scratched. It caused a delay. I don't know what horses it really bothered. We couldn't see all of them on television. We did see Further Ado. He did kind of seem a little worked up. Maybe there's an excuse there. And again, if you're listening, it's like, well, all 18 had to deal with it. Yeah. And I didn't see enough to say, oh, Further Ado, definitely that cost him the race. He just seemed agitated, but I'm sure a lot of them were. So it wasn't his day. Potente, he just kind of chased the pace and quit. I mean, he wasn't in too bad of a spot. I thought they worked him over to not the rail, but worked him over pretty close to the rail from the 14 hole. He got in a good spot. Again, he got another trip where it's like, yeah, he's tracking a pace that isn't just super speedy, but he went backwards when the real running began. 6 Speed to the front, fade. I think everybody kind of knew that was probably going to happen. A Robusta, he just didn't want the distance. I mean, he was not in any position to really do anything. He was kind of irrelevant. The Albus situation. This is a horse. We'll go to here. He did not get a great start of the race. He did kind of fall back. But I think that's kind of where they wanted him. But I wonder if the start maybe took a little bit out of him, or maybe he's just not that great. That could be part of it as well, but he just didn't fire. He didn't have a lot left in the tank. And Trepido, pretty predictable. The trainer was super upset that he worked so fast too early to the race. He did have some traffic. He did get bumped pretty hard. He had some excuses, but probably was never going to play a part in it. Litmus test, I mean, again, he did get bumped a lot out of the gate. He did have some trouble. He was kind of in that early scrum, from those rail horses, but there's just not, he wasn't really ever going to do much either. And then Pavlovian, who a lot of people thought would be out there, at least on the lead or at least close to the lead, he just didn't do anything. I thought he broke kind of flat footed, and it's like he was hung out in no man's land way on the outside. And it was like, are you going to ask him to get to the front? Or are we just going to stalk? And it was just kind of like, we're just going to fade, basically. He never really was in the race. He walked across the wire. So it wasn't his day. He just did not get that spot he wanted. He got the lead in the last two starts, or at least very close to the lead. And this time he didn't get the spot he wanted, basically. So, all right, that's the 18 of them. Final thoughts on this. Again, I'm fully aware that the pace was not slow in this race. It was a pace that was decent. It was an opening quarter that was pretty quick, but at the end of the day, I still scratch my head as to why all those speed horses, save for Denon Bourbon, just didn't have anything left. It could just have more to do with maybe they weren't all that good, and they just didn't show up that day or whatever. So I'm not really sure why the pace collapsed like that, especially on a day where speed seemed to be okay. But as far as the winner goes, Golden Tempo, you got to give him a ton of credit, making up a ton of ground. And look, at the end of the day, yeah, he got the setup, but he had to go run down the other great closer in the race, who was Renegade. And look, if you would have told me it set up like that, I would have said, sure, Golden Tempo could get second, third, or fourth, but he's not going to outkick Renegade. Well, he did. So you got to give him a ton of credit for able to catch Renegade. If the horse runs up and runs second, you go, well, it set out perfect. Of course he ran second, but to win, it shows that the horse just ran the biggest race of his career on the right day. So good on him. Good on Renegade as well to get second. Thought, surviving the break and everything that happened there from the rail, he was tremendous in this race. You give him a ton of credit as well. And Oselli, I don't know how he did it, but he did to get third there. Yes, the pace collapsed, but you still got to make a run, right? And he was able to do it. So listen, this was an extremely exciting Derby. This is a Derby that I still can't make a ton of sense of it as I sit here and kind of analyze it for you guys. But it was extremely exciting. Different times in the stretch, you had different feelings. Like I thought, oh my God, Denon Bourbon's going to win, and we're going to see Japan win the Kentucky Derby. This is kind of going to be cool. I thought Oselli was winning the race for a good few seconds. And when he put his nose in front, I thought, oh my God, it's Rich Strike all over again. But this may even be more improbable because this is a maiden. And then you pick up the two horses behind, and it's like, wow, Renegade's going to do it from the rail. And then it's like, Curlin's going to get his Derby with Golden Tempo. All the good horses to try it, and it's Golden Tempo that finally gets the Derby for Curlin. So you don't see that often where you think there's 4 and 5 horses in the stretch that can win. That's what this Kentucky Derby had. All right, guys, that'll do it for the recap. Hit that like button if you like the video. Hit subscribe. You really like it. Gonna get alerted anytime we do videos like this. And most importantly, stay tuned to the website as the Preakness Stakes is coming up next.